Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, how to voice the radio. So today, I really want to look at a card which has seen almost no play or hype or anything for a long time. And it makes me a little bit sad. We're talking about Regice. Now, I need to give a shout out to the lovely Code64X on Twitter. He tweeted this at me quite a while ago now, and unfortunately it was so long ago I can't even find the original tweet. So my apologies. But he brought up the idea of Regice to me. And it's one of these cards that it's taken me a long time to actually get round to being able to talk about. But I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of potential here. So Regice then. What's so good about it? Now, we are specifically referring here to the Regice from Celestial Storm. We're going to give some shout out to some other Regices at the end of the video if we've got time, but we're going to focus on the one from Celestial Storm for now. The attack here, not particularly impressive. Water, double colorless, 60 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. Meh. But the ability here is what makes me very happy. Icy Barrier. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent cannot play any stadium cards from their hand. Okay, so you're blocking and playing stadiums. Why do I care? The reason I care is Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star, one of the new cards which has just come out in Team Up and will be legal in just over a week's time. You see, this is a fantastic little card that reads, the attacks of non-fairy Pokemon, both players, cost 1 colorless energy more. Now, why are we playing this with Regice? Because your opponent can't play their own stadium. One of the great things about Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star, and in fact all of these Prism Star stadiums, you can't get rid of it using item cards. So Field Blower, nope, can't be done. Faber, nope, can't be done. You've got two choices for getting rid of Prism Star stadiums. Either you play your own stadium or you use an attack that gets rid of it. Now, what Regice does is it takes away the opportunity of your opponent to play their own stadium. So now they can't play their own stadium, and they can't get rid of it with something like Field Blower. So even though it's a Prism Star stadium and you can only use one of them in your deck, it's not going anywhere. You find it, you play it, you're golden. Now, look, there is an easy counter to this, and it's Pokemon like White Kyurem. There are some Pokemon that have an attack which can discard stadiums, and because it's a Prism Star stadium, when discarded it goes to the Lost Zone. If you play against a White Kyurem, then for a double colorless energy, you do 30 damage. If your opponent has a stadium card in play, discard it. Not yours, only your opponent's. So you discard it, and then this whole thing just essentially falls apart. Though you do have a chance against White Kyurem, more on that in a moment. But if your opponent doesn't have an attack to get rid of it, this is staying, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there are a couple other ways around this. What your opponent can do is use a Lysander. Oh no, wait, Lysander got rotated. How about Guzma, or a Guzma-like effect, which drags a Pokemon from your bench into the active? That means that all of a sudden Regice is no longer active and your opponent can play their own stadiums. That's fine. Don't play anything but Regice. Just literally play quad Regice. And then you won't have anything on the bench that your opponent can Guzma up, and then that goes away entirely. The other thing your opponent can do is play something like an Alolan Muck, which does turn off the abilities of active Pokemon, also slacking, but that's not played anywhere near as much. And if your opponent does play an Alolan Muck, then that's a problem. But these are all very specific counters. An attack like White Kyurem, yes. Alolan Muck, yes. But that's essentially it. So let's assume that's not happening. You've now got your Regice in the active, you got Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star, your opponent's attacks cost 1 more. And let's be clear, generally speaking, decks are not built to pay an extra energy cost. Something like Zoroark, there are so many Zoroark decks that are just playing for double colorless energy. And they're not playing anything else. They are going to really struggle against this. Now, I have seen some people suggest playing this in Rayquaza, but that still means you've got to get 4 energy on a Rayquaza to attack. That's a bit of a pain. Something like Buzzwole. needing 2 energy in order to use a jet punch, or Baby Buzz, hey Nick, needing to use 2 energy in order to get Sledgehammer rolling. And this all adds up very nicely indeed. Incidentally, your 120 HP is a real problem against stuff like Zoroark and Buzzwole. And then, of course, and you've probably guessed the next bit of this, but let's go through it anyway, you're playing Energy Denial. Because your opponent is set up to use a specific amount of energy. Generally speaking, if you're increasing the energy cost here, you are saying to your opponent it's going to take you 1 more turn to get the energy up. And during that 1 more turn, that's where you come in with your energy hate. Clearly, we got Crushing Hammer here to get rid of energy. And clearly, we've got Enhanced Hammer if they're playing special energy. And then we've got Team Skull Grunt to get rid of energy from their hand. And we've got Plumeria to get rid of energy from anywhere on the field. Bit of a shame that Team Flare Grunt has rotated out. Otherwise, that would be great in Standard. You could use a new Lycanroc from Team Up, which does have that as an ability when you evolve. But bearing in mind, you've then got a non-Regice on your bench, and Guzma wrecks your whole plan. And it's not out in this set, it's actually in the next set, but this is where we really need to mention Lieutenant Surge's strategy. Because Lieutenant Surge's strategy lets you play 2 supporter cards in 1 turn in addition to itself. And we still have Lusamine, which lets you recover 2 supporter cards. So you play Lusamine, recover 2, and then you can immediately play them because you've played Lieutenant Surge, which means you can have a Plumeria every turn or a Team Skull Grunt every turn, and that is in addition to your copious amounts of Crushing Hammer and Enhanced Hammer. Obviously, you can use a Rangaroo to try and reuse these, but the problem with using a Rangaroo to try and reuse them is that you run into the awkward situation of what if your opponent plays down a stadium on that 1 turn where you've got your Rangaroo in the active. That is going to ruin things. Now, we are getting Mullane in the set that's going to be coming out on Broken Bonds as well. Does let you discard 2 Metal Energy from your hand and then put a trainer card from your discard pile into your deck, but you really need Mount Coronet to play that, and that's another stadium, so I think it's a non-starter. But between 4 Crushing Hammer, 4 Enhanced Hammer, and all of the Plumeria, Team Skull Grunt shenanigans, I think you're probably going to be okay. And that's largely the basis of the deck here. Regice forcing your opponent to use Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star while constantly getting rid of their energy, and then of course you slowly whittle them down. Because you essentially need water and free colourless energy in order to attack. It's going to take you a while to attack, but here's the thing. You got time. The whole point of this deck is you're slowing your opponent down. So you've got time to build up this attack, and it's 60 damage plus sleep. Now that means that your opponent has a 50% chance of being asleep at the beginning of their turn. Which means not only are you increasing the amount of energy they need to attack, but you're also sending them to sleep on half of their turns. So it's not even like if they can get enough energy out. No! They're going to be asleep for half their turns and have really expensive attacks. And it's a very weird, unique combination. But Regice, combined with Wonder Labyrinth Prism Star, really can be an absolute bonus here. Now, there is one other card that I need to mention here, and it's an absolutely beautiful card, which is pretty much just for Regice. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration, but I'm not a million miles away. It's only for Regirock, Regice, Registeel, and Regigigas, and it means you take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. Think of it like a choice helmet, except it reduces damage from all Pokemon, not just from EXs and GXs. So now, you're reducing damage done to you while putting your opponent to sleep, while increasing their attack cost and getting rid of all their energy. Is it going to work? I hope so. I can't tell you for certain, but I very much hope that it does. I think this is a kind of card, kind of deck, which can be absolutely fantastic. It could also be really awkward and never work and far too much hassle, but it's got to be worth a test, ladies and gentlemen. It has got to be worth a test. I personally played the Regice from Legends Awakened in my old Donphan deck, which was really just used to get Spiritomb out the way so I could play my trainers, and we all had a little bit of a play around with the Regice from Ancient Origins It saw a bit of play in Mega Manectric decks, amongst other things. So it's not like we've never played with a Regice before. Regice has had his fun. I just love this idea. And I'm a fan of the Regis, right? The Regis are basically my favourite legendary Pokemon. I like the Regis. I want this to be good. And I don't know if this is a case of me wanting it to be good. But ladies and gentlemen, it just seems like an awful lot of fun to me. But hey-ho, does it seem like fun to you? I'd very much like to know. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. But please do remember the most important thing as always. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays for some more Wassy action. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.